I don't know.
Say it with me. I don't know.
Good God, it is liberating. I am a towering mountain of ignorance. I don't know. We're taught to believe that everything has a reason. And so we observe the world, we see what happened, and then we define the thing that happened as the reason the thing happened. But I think a lot of the time we end up mixing up thinking something with knowing something. This is why it can be so impossible to talk about certain topics with certain people. They've tied those suppositions to themselves so tightly with knots of narrative and constructed reality and values that there's just no untying it. And maybe unsurprisingly, in those situations, the best course of action is just to be friends. Maybe even ask them about that thing that they've created, because to them, it's immensely valuable. The world as we perceive it, as we've built it inside of ourselves, is a lie that we tell to ourselves, not out of deception, but out of necessity. We have no other choice. We simply cannot understand the world as it is, and so we construct. But sometimes I just have to tell myself the thing that is definitely true, the truest thing I can say, which is that I don't know.
Never know.
This is the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast with Bob Pondillo and Cass Midgley.
Welcome everyone to episode 153 of the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast. I'm Cass Midgley. Today Bob and I interview Casper Rigsby. Casper is a prolific blogger with the Atheist Republic. He's also the chief publishing officer of the organization. In 2015, he published 7 books, including the best-selling title, The Bible in a Nutshell. His work ranges from comedic blasphemy to philosophical inquiry and discourse. He was also nominated in 2015 for the Hitchens Prize, which recognizes, quote, an author or journalist whose work reflects a commitment to free expression and inquiry, a range and depth of intellect, and a willingness to pursue the truth without regard to personal or professional consequence, unquote. Casper's life is quite a story. In fact, Bob thinks it's a movie. He was born with a heart condition, put up for adoption at age 5, got caught up in drugs and ended up in prison. He became a white supremacist and has tattoos to prove it. He's a very honest and candid interviewee, and we think you're going to enjoy it. Before we get into our conversation with Casper, I was informed this week by my friend Brandy, and listener of the show, that a notion that has come up on the podcast a few times about the amygdala and our lack of need for it is not as true as I make it sound. My claim is that modern humans shouldn't utilize it as much as we do. The amygdala is that part of the brain that controls our fight, flight, or freeze responses when afraid. My assertion is that people operate far too often from this place, from a place of fear, and it doesn't produce wise decisions or mature behavior. She pointed out that this theory is only afforded to white straight males in America, of which I am guilty as charged. As a woman, she uses her fight or flight response every day, several times a day. Well, point taken. So in the spirit of last week's episode with Gleb Sapertsky, we celebrate updates here on the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast, and let me clarify by saying that if you're in a situation where your life might be in danger, use the fucking amygdala. But when you're trying to decide who to vote for, or whether you need religion or not, or if you think all people who look or believe differently than you are out to destroy you and your white, right, and uptight lifestyle, then I recommend you shift from using your amygdala to your neocortex, where logic and reason reside. Also, I want to read a short email that I got this week. It says, Dear Cass, I cannot remember how I stumbled across your amazing podcast over a year ago, but you and Bob have been instrumental in my ability to give my lingering religious fears, quote, a good death, unquote. I live right outside of Tupelo, Mississippi, and I know I do not have to tell you how deeply ingrained the Christian religion is in our society, in our culture. Because of this, I have gone back to school to be a licensed professional counselor, and I want to specialize in the LGBTQ population, as well as offer religious deconversion support. Religious maltreatment is alive and well down here, and I feel this type of support is in high demand. You and Bob are very special to me, and I look forward to hearing each podcast as soon as I can download it. I hope to meet the two of you one day. Big thanks, Dana. It's good to hear from listeners who have benefited from the show. We enjoy hearing about your recovery and healing from Christianity. It's our pleasure and honor to reach into so many lives and make our small contribution to the healing of our nation's religious scars. I understand that by listening to Bob and me week after week, that people can begin to see us and experience us as friends. And we want you to know that we love mitigating loneliness in this way, and it makes us feel good to be your friends and to be a part of a community like this. So here's to encouraging each other and connecting with each other through this medium. Cheers, salute, l'chaim. We taped this conversation on April 30th, 2017. We interview people you don't know about a subject no one wants to talk about. We hope to encourage people in the process of deconstructing their faith and help curb the loneliness that accompanies it. We think the world's a better place when more people live by sight, not by faith. Please subscribe to our podcast or leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, you can support us monetarily in two easy ways. You can pledge $1 or more per episode through Patreon. That's patreon.com/EA podcast. Or you can leave a lump sum donation through PayPal at our website, everyone'sagnostic.com. The smallest contribution is greatly appreciated. Our opening monologue is an excerpt from a YouTube by Hank Green titled Towering Mountain of Ignorance. The music behind it is Never Know by Jack Johnson. The segue music on this episode is some heavy metal stuff I found for free on the web, and it's in honor of our guest, Casper Rigsby. Thank you for listening, and please be a yes-sayer to what is.
Hey, everybody.
It's like being back in the recording studio.
Yeah, were you in the studio? Did you do your books? Is that why?
No. I actually used to perform, sing in metal bands. So we go in the studio every once in a while.
That's great. Yeah, it's amazing. Which one is me? 3?
2. You need more?
You know me.
I had you up a little bit, but...
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I just need it on the phones. Yeah. I'm an old disc jockey.
Ah.
So I got no hearing. I said I got no hearing. Okay.
Yeah, so
I like it.
You were
loud.
listening to the music I was making and killing your eardrums.
Exactly. That was me, in case you were wondering.
So your pen name is Casper Rigsby.
Casper the Friendly Atheist. Yes.
But it's not your real name.
It's not my birth name.
Okay.
No, but I've actually been known as Casper since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's an old nickname that was given to me.
Very similar to mine, both in...
Cass, yeah.
It's not my real name, but it was given to me at birth.
Is that because you're a white guy? Why did they call you Casper?
No, I actually have a large propensity for disappearing. Especially at parties and stuff, or just like on my mom. I used to just disappear on her. She never knew I was at. She'd expect me to be somewhere and couldn't find me.
Wow.
So,
As a small child, even?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So they literally came up with Casper because you disappear a lot?
Yeah. I'm like a ghost. I just disappear and then I just show up randomly. It's like, whoa.
Well, anyway, good to have you. I think you're here live today, Casper. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Not ectoplasm.
I'm
that's for
telling you,
sure.
man, it's so nice to have a live guest every
It
now and then.
is. It's
because
great.
Skype,
It's great.
drops out and all kinds of problems.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you text me your address, and I was like, oh crap, yeah, I'm gonna get to do this live because I'm so used to doing them on like Google Hangouts and stuff or Skype, and it's just like, you hope that your reception's good. I'm like, let me go ahead and plug in the Ethernet because my Wi-Fi might be shit today. So
Right? That's true.
Yeah, very true. Absolutely.
Well, before we get into your books and your activism and stuff, I just want to kind of get the backstory, not just your religious backstory, but like, what your mom and dad did for a living and where were you born and raised, those kind of things.
Yeah.
well, let's see. I actually was given up for adoption at 5.
Okay.
So I grew up with adopted parents, but I know my biological mother, and I lived with her until I was 5. She's an interesting person. I think that's probably the nicest thing I can say about it.
Yeah.
We have a tumultuous relationship. She basically did almost the exact opposite of me. She went from someone who was kind of an activist, during the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
pretty progressive person. Now she's really a conservative fundamentalist.
Wow.
I, on the other hand, I grew up in a pretty conservative fundamentalist household
The
with my
adopted household.
adopted family, and I went the complete opposite direction. Over enough time of learning and growing and trying to figure out who I was as a person.
What was the circumstances of your 5-year-oldness that she put you up for adoption?
I was born with a heart condition.
Okay.
I have a mitral valve prolapse, and I had a small hole in my heart.
Yeah.
And because of my medical needs, she felt she couldn't afford to take care of me. My personal opinion is she didn't want to step up as a parent and a person, keep a real job, and do what it took to take care of me.
Yeah.
Because it was hard. So
what
stepped away
age
from
were
it.
you the first time you had a surgery?
My first surgery, I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. How about
And they
that?
opened up the chest
They,
cavity.
they actually went in through the side on
Okay.
the first one, so
Yeah.
I've got a nice scar across the side of my abdomen
Rib
there,
cage.
and then I've got the full zipper down the front because I've had 2 more heart surgeries since that first one.
Wow.
My mom had mitral valve prolapse. It's scary.
Did she get the valve replacement?
No, she never did. She's gone. She's passed away now. But yeah, she had that problem, and
See,
it was.
When I was 15, they said they were gonna have to do a replacement. They tried to do a fix on it when I was 12, and it didn't work. So they said they were
jeez.
gonna have to do a replacement. And I think that's probably one of the first moments that I understood I probably trust mankind better than any sort of faith, because they gave me the choice between a pig valve and a man-made artificial valve, and I didn't even really hesitate or think about it. I just said, "Give me the man-made valve." I trust science. Give me that. There were a lot of factors behind it, like I wouldn't have to take anti-rejection medication for
Sure.
the rest of my life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of, I kind of trust our ability to engineer things a little bit better than I trust the natural world's ability to engineer things, because it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah,
So,
very true. Very true.
With man, it's an intention. With nature, it's just chaos. It
yeah,
seems like.
it's just a mess. Yeah, pretty much. Well, good. So you're feeling good? You're feeling all right now? Or you still have heart problems? What's
I still deal with it. I mean, it's a everyday thing. I live a slightly different lifestyle than I guess I would otherwise. I have to watch my salt intake and things like that,
sure.
and kind of try not to overdo it on certain things. But I did not follow that path as a teenager. I imagine I've done damn near every drug on the face of the earth at least once.
But then again, as a teenager, you're indestructible. You're not gonna. You're gonna be fine.
You feel like that. I was honestly trying to die.
No
I didn't-
kidding.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't happy.
Well, I'm happy things have turned around. So, your mom from Tennessee? Are you from this area? Where are you from?
Yeah, all my family lives here in this area pretty much, except for my dad, who's
Your bio dad?
yeah, my biological father. He lives in a prison in the state of Florida.
Good food. I understand now. Sorry. Wow. Gee,
Yeah.
whiz.
So
Well,
you're-
what an unusual path, huh?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, life is hard for the normal human and with a normal upbringing, but it sounds like your upbringing was so checkered with things that I could see where you're like, fuck it, I don't really care if I live or die, and and in a way, if you're drinking heavy with a heart condition, you're kind of rolling the dice. And
Yeah.
there's a little bit of apathy there. Like, I win if I stay alive, I win if I die.
Wow. Yeah, I guess so.
It's odd. I have 2 memories of my biological father. don't really know anything about him, but my two memories are him trying to murder me as a baby.
Oh.
So yeah, not very fond of that man. And he is welcome to stay exactly where he is.
Did he kill somebody or something? Is that why he's in jail or what?
Yeah, he's multiple felon.
Oh wow.
I'm fairly certain he's a sociopath. Mm-hmm. I have some unfortunate leanings in that realm. I tend to be if I'm not cognizant of it, I will tend to be very self-involved and very selfish and very ignorant of those around me and their well-being and stuff. So it's one of the things that drives me to be the way I am, because I know that it's easy to let go and just be apathetic to everything and everyone. It's much more difficult to actually look at everything around you and go, I have an impact on everything around me and everyone that I come in contact with, I have a responsibility because of the impact that I make.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great character. I mean, and it's a chosen character. That's the weird thing. I mean, you have to think about it and choose it daily, I guess. Mm-hmm. Wow.
In order to be an empath at all, you have to exert some intentionality.
So yeah, I wish Trump.
And I think we all do.
Wish Trump could do that.
But I think we're saying that your DNA is a disposition that kind of right off the bat you're gonna need.
I really believe so. I believe it is for most people, really. But it's what we choose to do that matters. That's what defines us. Not necessarily the circumstances that we come from or the circumstances that we're in, but what we choose to do. In dealing with that and how we choose to overcome it or succumb to it.
Yeah. Great.
This is this mindset of like, it's typically a conservative mindset when you say bootstraps or welfare state, and kind of the conservatives are. And part of the reason why somebody would generate a lot of energy around others being lazy or others not taking responsibility for their lives, and that being offensive, is that you have to work so hard to do it yourself. And it's like when you see somebody not exerting, come on, give it a little effort to be nice in traffic. Give it a little effort to, you're in line at Walmart. You don't have to be a dick. I work really hard not to be a dick. You can too. So you can.
I get it.
There's a righteous indignation that I think is easily welled up when you work so hard.
Eventually, too, don't you have to say, well, they're fucking people. I mean, they're just they're just people.
You got to turn them loose.
Well, my viewpoint is there's levels to it. There's levels of laziness. Now, your laziness of
he's made a study of this.
Well, yeah, I mean,
sure.
There's your laziness that you don't want to change lanes early, so I have to fucking hit my brakes because you cut over in front of me is different than the sort of laziness of you could get a job and you just won't.
Yeah.
Like that's a different level of laziness. That's an all around laziness. And it does bother me.
Yeah.
But then I look at people that a lot of people would call lazy, and I'm like, that's a misstatement.
Yeah.
You're looking at someone that can't work, that can't keep a job, that has no education, and can't do better than a McDonald's job, and you're saying, oh, why don't you do better? Well, fuck, man, they don't really have an opportunity to do better.
Yeah, you sound like Mark Stevens, a guy we had on, a policeman who we had on recently, who pretty much says the same thing. He looks at these people and thinks, I'm not going to draw on this guy. I'm not going to draw a gun on this guy. This guy's sick. He needs help. He needs whatever, So, but to have that type of empathy is a good thing.
Well, I got to meet Mark at NanoCon.
He's a great guy.
This last year, and he was a wonderful, wonderful person to meet. We need more police officers out there like him.
So much.
Yeah.
If the police force was full of guys like him, there'd be no Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
It's just the reality of the situation.
They would already matter.
And Mark probably told you guys and has told me too that he feels the exact same way. That's why he stays there. He doesn't necessarily like what he's doing, but he knows that he can have an impact, and he tries to get people to change their mindset on stuff. So we need more people like that.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely, and more like you, I think. But.
So in your adoptive family, did you inherit some siblings?
My adopted parents have a son, so I have an adopted brother.
How do you get along? Pretty good? Not too good?
We tolerate each other. It was difficult growing up because, okay, I know a lot of people that have been adopted, and a lot of them are adopted at birth.
Yeah.
They don't know what
Right.
happened. At 5 years old, I understood enough to know that my mother didn't care about me enough to keep me.
Right.
So that created a real emotional issue within me. Like I was
sure.
constantly looking at myself going, what is so fucked up about me
Right.
that my own mother couldn't take care of me?
Yeah.
Like, and it
Kind of
it had a real
abandonment?
impact. Yeah, it caused some abandonment issues and stuff. And I chose to dwell on it instead of trying to overcome it as a kid. And it caused a lot of animosity in the home between me and my adopted parents, between me and my brother. And so I was a dickhead growing up. I mean, that's just the nicest way to put it, but it's the truth. I was an asshole to everyone around me all the time. Very selfish, very self-involved, very, you know what, nobody's going to like me anyway, so fuck it, I'm just going to do what I want.
Right. It's kind of like Mark, speaking of Mark Stevens, he posted something yesterday about hypochondria and how a person can just, in their own heads, tell themselves they're sick, and feel like they're sick. And certainly after a while, some symptoms actually show up. And then they feel confirmed in that. And in a similar way, if the tape you're playing in your head is, I must be a really bad person in order for my mom to abandon me.
Yeah.
I must be a really bad person. I must be a really bad person. I become a really bad person. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, just like hypochondria is, And the next thing you know, you're actually, and I know this is true, I kind of have a little bit of this, is that if everybody has a need and desire to be loved and accepted as they are. And if your self-image of yourself is pretty low, you really do think you're a bad person, or you think I must be because my mom left me, then there's a bit of a psychological agenda to like prove that true. And so two things are going on. You behave in a way that is prickly and offensive and raw, and two things are going on. Some people, thin-skinned people, are going to hate you, and you're okay with that. And then, but the ones that survive, the thick-skinned people that like stick it out and aren't offended by your prickliness or your, propensity to be a dick, those are your true friends. And at last, you've found some faithful and true people that you always wanted to begin with, but didn't believe you deserved. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's good.
That's very true. But a lot of people don't ever grow out of that, and I think that's the bigger issue. It's easy to succumb to what's going on around you and just be that guy. It's much harder to take an introspective look at yourself and realize how what you're doing affects other people.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't have to be an asshole, and people would like you.
There's that.
It's like, do I really want to be a socially involved person, and can I make that happen if I just decide to be a different me?
Yeah.
And most of us can. Some people can't. Some people literally they cannot let go of that.
Get over themselves almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and there is a third layer to this, because I just mentioned, like, okay, so you're offensive and it turns people away, the ones that stick around. But there's a third thing that can happen to somebody who's really caught up in their own self-hatred, and that is, if I pick up on signals that you're sending me that you like me, you actually enjoy my company, I so hate myself that I now disrespect you because you have no taste.
Yeah. Well, you become self-destructive.
Yeah.
So you end up ruining every relationship you get into because you don't think you deserve that relationship.
It's self-sabotage.
So it's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and what about relationships? You have a girlfriend or a partner or something?
I've been married for 13 years. We've been together for 14. I love looking at all my Christian friends that are divorced and going, ha ha, God didn't save that one, did he? Maybe you should have come into this like it's a fucking partnership between two individuals who are trying to do better and not some property that you were fucking picking up off the goddamn street, asshole.
Yeah. Or their invisible friend told them that was the one.
Yeah, it kills me. People are always like, "Oh, well, you want to have a good relationship, you got to have God in your relationship." Like, no, you probably should leave that shit at the table.
Yeah,
like, don't bring that in at all.
Well, that's interesting. So you got this really like I said, checkered past or whatever, and yet you're sitting here talking as a very evolved husband, because you just basically listed the attributes of a healthy, two-pillar, powerful individual, self-respecting and mutually respecting space. And these are some evolved marital concepts. And so I think, not just in the case of marriage, but we've read some of your books and we've looked over a lot of what you've done. And going back to laziness, you've exerted a lot of effort over your 33 years. Is that what you said?
36.
36
year.
Wow.
Yeah. And so somewhere in there, you did make some really volitional choices. And you said, if I'm going to be in community, if I'm going to have a wife, if I'm going to get the life that I think I want and deserve, then I'm going to have to make some changes. And so, bravo.
Yeah.
Well done, man.
Well, that's great. That's great. And you can tell you respect her. You love her and respect her. And that's key.
Oh yeah. Love is one thing. I love lots of people. I do honestly and truly love my wife, but she's my partner. It's not just that I love her; it's that I know I can count on her and I can trust her. If I fall, she's going to pick me back up, and
vice versa.
and vice versa. Yeah, if she goes down, I'm going down with her, and I'm going to lift her back up, and we're coming back together.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think that is the lottery. If you find a person like that, then you really have hit pay dirt. However, my concern, and especially like some of what I've been through in the last 6 months with my wife of 34 years, is that there's an element of that sounds like that's a lot of pressure for another person to carry. So you going to speak to that?
It is. It's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of personal responsibility too.
Yeah.
And I think the real hard part is to embrace that and say, if I want what I feel like I want, I have to accept that comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of hard work. And yeah, it's not going to be easy, and you're not always going to be happy, and you're going to get upset. Both of you are going to get upset. It's going to be trying at times. You have to learn to step back from that and say, okay, let's calm down. Let's approach this rationally and logically. Can we work with this? Can we do this? Can we fix this? And you also have to understand that it's never a set situation. Like I said,
There's no pat answer.
I approach my marriage like it's a business deal. Okay, I've gone into a partnership with another human being so that we can both mutually benefit from this partnership. If someone is not benefiting from this partnership, we each have the right to dissolve this partnership. There's no reason to have animosity or get angry about it.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, this partnership did not work out. I'm sorry, Pepsi and Coke tried to merge, and guess what? The flavor of Pepsi is shit, and Coke realized it, and they were like, yeah, this ain't going to work. So... that happens.
You really are a realist.
Well, and people get upset about it. People get so upset about, oh, my wife cheated on me. Well, first of all, that's her vagina. You don't get to dictate what she does with it. I'm sorry. Like that.
Yeah.
You can't stop her from doing that. The only person on the planet you can control is you. You control how you respond to it.
Yeah.
You can get angry and be bitter and pissed off about it, or you can go, well, you don't get to do that. We had a contract. I'm out.
Yeah.
And then let it go. Like, okay, we're done.
We have a tendency to take things so personal that aren't really...
Especially that.
Yeah.
Cheating of the.
Yeah, and people do move on, and I mean that's kind of why I brought it up, like as far as feeling the pressure of you've got my back, I've got yours. Well, it's reality at some point that somebody might say, I'm tired of having your back, and it's exhausting me, and I'm just not happy, and I want out.
Well, the worst part is when it feels one-sided.
Exactly.
When you're the one who's always having to pick up the other one. When you
Yeah.
feel like they don't ever have to come to your aid because you're doing your damn part.
Yeah.
And they're not doing theirs, and you're constantly going, oh, let me go pick this asshole back up. Shit.
I always describe a healthy relationship, and this could probably apply to friendships as well, but definitely for partnerships, and that is when both parties feel like they are the lucky one.
Yeah.
Then you're good to go. But if after a while one of the parties starts to feel like I'm not so lucky, they're lucky to have me, but I don't feel lucky to have them, and then you start to that's going to be a cold thing pretty quick.
Yeah,
I always think like, and that is a real problem. But I always think, and my particular stance on anything is, your first reaction in any situation where something isn't going right is you need to look at you. Mm-hmm. Are you doing something wrong? Mm-hmm. Did you do something to cause this? Mm-hmm. And examine that thoroughly. Yeah. And if you find that you didn't do something to cause that, then look for external sources and go, okay, well, who's fucking this up for me?
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds a little bit like the blame game, but I think the difference is that there is a root cause that we need to get to the bottom of, but the blame game is more of a scapegoating. Let's find who we can torture or who we can crucify because of this, and there again is the personal part.
Yeah, it's about what your first reaction is. I think it's about do you examine you first? Yeah. And if you do that, and then you find you're not at fault, then it's somebody else's fucking fault, and you have every right to dissolve that relationship in any way, shape, or form. No. Well, except for violence, don't kill anybody because you're not happy with them, but still.
So from the age 5 to like at 18, did you move out or?
Well, let's see. I grew up. My adopted family are, like I said, very conservative, fundamentalist Christians. I grew up. My grandfather is a lifelong minister for the Church of Christ. Mm-hmm. So anybody familiar with the Church of Christ knows that they are not exactly the most fundamentalist of the Christian religions, but very fundamentalist, very conservative in their values.
Very into the word.
Oh, yeah. You don't use musical instruments in the church. You don't dance and all sorts of... You don't wear revealing clothing if you're a woman. Like, there's just... It's a laundry list of near Puritan-like dogma that goes into the Church of Christ. And as, of course, many other fundamentalist-styled Christian faiths. So I grew up going to church with my grandfather every Sunday, listening to his sermons and stuff. I gave my first sermon at 12 years old.
Wow, you were called
to his church.
Were you called?
It was,
or was it a text? No,
I think it was a matter of my grandfather looked at his son, my adopted father, and did not see his ability to step into the role. Because he would have loved to have, passed that down generationally. My adopted father lacks the one thing that you have to be a good minister and keep a congregation, and that's charisma. If you don't have it, you ain't going to keep a congregation. I don't care how good your sermons are factually and how much you know the word. If you ain't got charisma, if you can't move a crowd, you ain't going to keep them.
Yeah, and you've got that. You can tell.
Well, and that's what my grandfather saw, and that's what he latched onto, and that's why he was constantly pouring the Bible into me. I read the Bible from front to back at least 6 times before I was 15 years old. Mm-hmm. So I know the vast majority of that book inside and out. Mm-hmm. My book, The Bible in a Nutshell, that I wrote that all from memory. Mm-hmm. I didn't, consult the text and go, oh, did this happen or what order did it? No, that's all from memory. Because I know from point A to point Z, like everything that happened. Yeah. So it was drilled into me. I was, taught to study the word, know the word, be able to refute people's arguments. I was taught to be able to deal with people like me as a Christian, Sure. Because my grandfather is a very intelligent man. There is a faction in our own community that views everyone who has a religious following as an idiot. And it's just not true. Many of these people are very intelligent people. Yeah. But either because of fear of death or fear of the unknown or, innate indoctrinism, they have chosen to stay within that faith. So to take these people as being absolute idiots is just it's a very terrible position to take. You're going to lose a lot of arguments that way because they're going to make you look stupid.
But in your books, man, you don't give a shit about that. You're like fuck you kind of an attitude,
Well, people hate being confronted with bluntness. But here's the thing. My personal mindset is, if I can piss you off, you're going to get honest with me. And that's what I want. I want honesty. Because I would rather you look at me and go, well, or I would rather you didn't look at me and go, well, bless you, and I'm going to pray for you and shit. I want you to look at me and go, I hate you. I hope you fucking die. And then look at yourself later and go, oh my God, why did I blow up like that?
Yeah.
Now let's have an honest conversation. You're being honest. You do hate me. You do kind of wish I would die.
Yeah.
Now we got some honesty.
Let's go.
Yeah, there's something going on there.
That's good. Yeah, I like
that. If everybody's nice,
yeah,
and we're talking in platitudes, and we kind of have this fake, respect going on, but inside, and I think what you're saying is provocation cuts through all that, brings it to the fore, and now we know we're what you're seeing is what you're getting, and we're talking face to face, and we're not hiding behind masks.
Yeah,
and that's I get that, and I am glad to hear you. I mean, because basically you just said, hey, there's a tendency to broad brush all Christians are idiots, and you're affirming by your own grandfather that he's not an idiot.
Oh no, he's spent much of his life studying science, studying scientific facts, studying archaeology and stuff, not believing half of it. He has a great grasp of evolution, and straight up will tell you it's bullshit. I mean, he won't say it like that. He doesn't curse, but he will tell you that's not true. The Earth was created in 6,000 years, or 6 days, and it's 6,000 years old. Dinosaurs or dinosaur bones were put here by Satan to trick man into not believing in God. That's his personal, but he knows all the other stuff. He knows where I'm at and why I go that route.
Do you still have a relationship with him, or do you talk to him? Or
we have familial relationships as far as holidays and stuff. I see him on Christmas and Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And when I see my family, they're all Christians, all of them. I'm the only black sheep, so
right.
So they tolerate you, I guess.
They tolerate my children.
Oh, you have kids? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have 2 little boys, and our relationship.
Well, they can still be saved, So.
Yeah. No, we have rules. We have rules. They're not allowed to go to church. They're not allowed to be indoctrinated. You can see them, but you don't feed them no crap, because they come back. They will tell me. Well, I have a very open and honest relationship with my children. So when they hear crap, they're like, "Hey, somebody said this," and I'm just like, "Yeah, that's crap."
Do you ever fear that they're gonna be like your mom? Start out one way and then turn to Christianity or any strange cult, or
I would fear it if I didn't understand the importance of education. I haven't taught my kids what to think. I've taught them how to think.
There you go.
Examine everything. I tell my kids all the time, don't take anything at face value. If I tell you, I'm your dad. If I tell you something, ask me why. Ask me to prove it.
Yeah.
Show me the facts.
Yeah.
Don't take anyone at face value.
Even when it's not like an issue of science or theology, even if it's you can't go over to your friend Davies right now. They need. I always felt like this with my kids, is that they have the right to say, "Why not, Dad?" And then I don't pull this because I said so.
Oh yeah, I hate that phrase.
Right?
Hate it.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because they will lose respect for my authority because I'm wielding it as a club, as an authoritarian. And I'll say, "Look, here's my reasoning. You have to be at school tomorrow morning by 8 a.m. You go over there. You're going to play games. You're going to stay up late. There's no." Even if you think you're not going to, it just happens. I'm worried about your rest or whatever.
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh, my dad really cares about me. He's looking out for me. It's the opposite of.
Well, and even more than that, it allows them to see how you've reasoned and come to a decision, so that they learn that ability and that they're able to do it for themselves. So next time that they want to go do something, maybe they make that decision all on their own. They go, well, remember when Dad said this, and this is why, and maybe I should I'll go ahead and just
modeling. You're modeling the behavior.
Adulthood, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Great.
So I got a theory about your grandfather. There's a narrative in the Old Testament. I'll talk to Bob. You and I both know this. Bob, there's a narrative.
I'm the idiot here, yes.
There is a theme, a recurring theme in the Old Testament, where God chooses people in kind of backwards ways. Like a lot of times he passed over the firstborn in favor of the secondborn, which culturally amongst the Jews, and really almost any culture, that was countercultural, and it was threw things into a loop, because it's like, wait, what? You skipped over what everybody thought was going to be,
like the prodigal son kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of examples. I know, like even with Saul, God wanted to choose the weak things of the world to confound the wise, and Saul was tall and handsome, and God was more apt to. And then I think what Joseph got thrown into his brothers hated him, because he was popular.
Yeah, but then he ends up becoming proxy king for
exactly.
For
That's what I'm saying but God, because God's providential over all of that, He chose Joseph over the other brothers. And then, what Jacob and Esau is an example of where Esau was firstborn, and that whole switcheroo. Anyway, so Casper's grandfather is looking for, the mantle to be passed on to his son. It's not there. He may have even looked at his biological grandson, and it wasn't there. And then here comes the adopted son, who has the calling, Yeah,
I'm sure.
And that would make sense to him, maybe, in the sense that this, here's my son and daughter, who maybe out of the goodness of their heart adopted you. Like this was, Christians every now and then can be motivated to do good things out of their fear of God. Or their guilt or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of Christians take on adopted kids, and the need in the world is so huge. I want to say thank you. I don't really care about your motivation. Mm-hmm. You did a good thing by giving this unwanted child a home. So applause. This, I don't know. I'm just thinking that the grandfather could just kind of have this narrative going on in his head that it makes sense that God would choose Casper over all these others. Historically, it's a pattern that God has done. And then when you do preach for a while, you do get excited about the Bible, you get excited about your faith, you're a zealot for a while, and then it falls apart right before his eyes. You become literally the black sheep. I don't know. Any of that ring true for you?
A lot of it. But I think him and everyone else had a bit of an inkling in the back of their minds that this was not going to go the way they planned, because I've always been one to ask questions, and I never accepted the narrative of you don't question God. Like, why not? He knows everything. He knows everything.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Ask him?
If he's God, he can take it. If he's not, then we need to question him.
So I ended up on the path that I'm on now, because I couldn't stop asking questions, and because I found things that brought up new questions extremely interesting. I love philosophy. I love philosophy to death. I'm working slowly, very, very slowly, towards a doctorate in philosophy because I love philosophy. Yeah. It's not exactly a very practical thing to love because it really revolves around idealism and just thinking. Yeah. But it's something that intrigues me. I also really love comparative mythology, and that's what tore it all apart for me. Yeah. Because I'm also a mythicist. I don't actually believe in a historical Jesus. Yeah. So like I'm sort of a black sheep in our own community to that extent. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that are just like, oh, that's the stupidest thing ever, and I'm like, look at the evidence. There's a lot of stuff here that you have to go. That doesn't really add up to me. Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm. It was things like that, looking at comparative mythology and looking into philosophy, and I came up with I started understanding the philosophical paradoxes, like the idea of free will versus God is omniscient. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't have those two. That's a philosophical paradox.
Right. And loving philosophy is like loving the Rubik's Cube. Like, you can't, but you can't get a job with a Rubik's Cube, with a philosophy degree unless you're going to teach it. But it is fun mental entertainment. I mean, I love it too. Oh yeah. But let me go back to you're 18. You graduate from public school. I take it.
No, actually, I moved out of my adopted parents' house when I was 16. Okay. I basically ran away. We moved down to Georgia, and then they decided they were going to move back to Tennessee, and I said, you can shove it, I'm staying down here. So I moved in with some friends.
And legally you could do that? Like the courts didn't get involved? Or
In the state of Georgia, at 17, you're legally an adult, and I was a couple months away from 17, and I was like, by the time y'all get me into court and all this other crap, I'll be legal. So chalk it up as lost.
And what was some of the estrangement with them? Like, I mean, not only were they moving back and you had grown to like the place, but your relationship had drifted apart, obviously, somewhat.
I
mean, at what point did you start questioning your faith? I mean, how old were you when you started? I mean, obviously that was day one of your faith, but I mean, when they started figuring out he's not one of us.
Probably when I was about 15, after my last surgery. I came out of that surgery with just a horrible outlook on everything. The doctors told me that my heart valve would at best last 15 years. I'm going to have another surgery. It could just, collapse inside my chest at any point in time and I'll die. So it was just like, and then on top of that, the heart valve I have actually ticks like a clock, and sometimes people around me can hear it because it's been that loud, but I always hear it. It's always in my head, in my ears, like a clock, just constantly ticking. And I developed this sort of just intense fear of sitting here hearing that, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's not there, and then a couple minutes later I'm just out.
Yeah.
I prayed all the time. I was constantly looking to God for guidance, and I wasn't getting shit, and everything was just mayhem really around me.
Yeah.
I wasn't fitting in at school. I wasn't feeling it with anybody. I wasn't just. Everybody kept telling me I'm too smart for my own good, and I need to shut up and quit questioning all this stuff. And it was just like So I was in a really just funky place, and
you could feel very alone in the world.
Yeah, and I really did, and I met some people that didn't make me feel alone anymore.
Awesome.
And they were not awesome. They were members of the Aryan Nation. So right. I fell in with white supremacists.
Wow. The twist in the story here, my gosh.
It's a movie. It's a movie.
And
you got to write this up, man.
And at age, 16 or?
15, I started hanging out with them and stuff.
And now these are peers, but they would take you to meetings?
Peers whose parents were already in the organization, who had friends, uncles, and stuff that were in the organization deeply.
Now, this is not the Klan, or is it the Klan?
No.
This is
the Aryan Nation
Klan-like, I guess. Klan.
Somewhat Klan-like. Mm-hmm. It's more akin to Nazis.
Yeah.
Or neo-Nazis.
Did you have to shave your head? Did you do all that stuff?
No. I did often wear the red suspenders, black pants, white shirt, get up. It's a neo-Nazi sort of get up with the stomp boots and stuff. Huh. Yeah.
Swastikas, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Some of that? I've got some tattoos. We'll talk about them later. But yeah, I fell in with this crowd, and for about 4 years, I was pretty heavily involved with the Aryan Nation, moving up through, figuring out stuff, and I ended up actually getting hooked on meth as well. So
wow.
I ended up going to jail for the first time at 17 years old. Uh-huh. So I never graduated from high school.
Okay.
When I finally went to prison later on, I got my GED. So I do have a GED. Like I'm actually have a certificate. But at 17, I went to jail, got back out of jail, was getting more and more involved with this organization. And then I actually started learning what their end game is, and realized I couldn't be a part of it.
What is their end game?
Global domination, total ethnic cleansing, genocide.
The final solution.
Oh, come on. That's fucked up. That's not going to happen.
They want a white world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
And it's
good luck.
A lot of them today are just like, oh, we just want an ethno state, and we just want our own space. Yeah, that's, when I got involved in it, that's how I started out. I was a separatist, and I was like, look, you stay over here, I'll stay over here, we'll all be happy, just stay the fuck away from me.
And I see, the thing is, I've said this on the show before, that there is an appeal to at least an honest person about that, because this old fucking cliche, the birds of a feather flock together. And that initially a separatist could feel moral and ethical in their hearts towards the others, in that, look, all this mingling is creating the chaos, creating crime, creating fight, creating discord. You guys could be happy too. And I care enough about you to wish happiness for you. And I care enough about me and my people to wish happiness for us. And so at first, it can feel moral. It can feel like you're taking the moral high ground, saying, I just want everybody to be happy. And the best way to do that is to live separately. And it can feel right.
Yeah.
I get it.
Is that what you had? You had that sense?
Like I said, I was living in Georgia at the time, so right outside of Atlanta. So large black population, large black communities around me and stuff. And there was a lot of criminal issues, a lot of, bad blood, a lot of racism on both sides. And I say racism just as a generality. Of course, there's all this, issues of whether a black person can be racist or not.
I get it.
But just as a generality, there's a lot of
Tension between the races.
Racial animosity.
Yeah.
would be a better term.
Flowing both ways. Yeah, sure.
So that was always present and prevalent. And like I said, I was having trouble fitting in, getting along with people and stuff. And then here's a group of people that says, hey, we would like you with us. We feel like you're like us, and
You are blue-eyed.
yeah.
A little bit Aryan there.
It's a weird thing about the Aryan Nation, because most people don't know about them, and that's exactly what they want.
Yeah,
they're
kind
one
of a
of
secret
the
society.
They're one of the largest white supremacist groups in this nation. They have been listed by the FBI as a terrorist organization, a domestic terrorist organization, along with the KKK. Members of the Aryan Nation have committed domestic terrorism in this country.
Wow. Did you ever go to rallies or big meetings?
Oh yeah.
What cities did you go?
Well, it was all local stuff.
Yeah.
Right around where I lived. And
so what would you say would be the largest gathering? Like 100 people, 200?
Probably about 600.
Huh.
Yeah, that's a big in Georgia.
Yeah. We had people come over from Alabama and come down from Tennessee.
But you're meeting secretly. You're not like meeting at the hotel or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Southern Poverty Law Center certainly watches. There's always a right-wing watch. Always somebody knows something about it.
Well, they know what they can know.
Yeah.
I mean, we only know so much about the KKK's inner workings. These are secretive organizations. They want to remain secretive. Yeah. Because if people understood what exactly is at the heart of this, they would be on them like a fly on shit. I mean, it's most people don't understand. They think it's a difference of opinion, and it's really not.
Really?
It's just...
Well, we were talking on the porch a little bit before we started. I'm a big free speech Nick. First Amendment rights, go, you speak. In fact, the more you speak, the more crazy you are, so let them speak. But you had a different kind of a take on it.
Well, yeah, and those that know me and follow me on Twitter or Facebook, they know I've been embroiled in arguments over this, because at the heart of it, like I said, most people don't understand the end game. They don't understand that this is that when people like Richard Spencer, who has rebranded white supremacy.
Now, who's he again?
He's the leader of the alt-right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the guy who created the alt-right and stuff. The dude that got punched in the face.
Okay, at that Trump rally. Yeah. Okay.
So
Spencer.
So people like him, he's actually done great work for groups like the Aryan Nation and other white supremacist groups, because he figured out, if I just rebrand what is in essence the Nazi ideology, I can get away with doing anything and saying whatever the fuck I want. He put the word peaceful in front of ethnic cleansing, and people are just like, oh, well, now we got to have a discussion about it.
Peaceful.
No, we fucking don't. We don't have to discuss that at all. There's no such thing as peaceful ethnic cleansing. That is stupid. Like, why would we have a conversation about that?
But isn't that something? It shows you words are unstable, and people will buy into words that vibrate to them, that resonate.
Sure. Well, and by saying we're not going to have that conversation, he could cry victimhood of censorship.
Well, and he does. He does. That's why they're forcing to allow him to speak in Alabama at the college down there, because he's cried, I'm a victim. This is a free speech issue. And people in our own community came out when he got punched in the face and said, oh, his free speech. I'm like, that motherfucker's still talking. Like, nobody shut down his website. Nobody stopped him from speaking at the rallies that he wanted to. A dude punched him in the face. If you want to be upset about it, go, oh, fuck, people are assaulting people in the streets. I agree. Don't do that. Don't assault people in the streets. But don't tell me that's a free speech issue. The dude can still talk. Like, talk to me when he's dead or the government has shut everything that he has down and put him in prison. Yeah. Because then his free speech has just been totally violated. And I agree, that's not cool. But when a dude gets punched in the face, like, maybe, just maybe, you need to understand that, hey, we shouldn't run around punching people in the face. But if you go around talking about, hey, let's go ethnically cleanse this country, somebody might punch you in the face. I mean, it's like
freedom and responsibility. You have a responsibility.
I mean, you should be able to say whatever you want anywhere that you want, and nobody should punch you in the face. But I dare you to go into Harlem and call a black man the N-word and see if you don't get punched in the face. Yeah. Like, ideally, we shouldn't get punched in the face, but sometimes you're going to say something, somebody's going to punch you in the face.
Well, they always say that the antidote for speech is more speech. That's the common
Well, you know, that is, and I think that's a bumper sticker slogan that doesn't fix real world problems. Well, honestly, okay, let's look at it. Racism has existed in this nation and on this planet for hundreds of years. Yeah. And if that bumper sticker slogan were true, racism would not exist. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of better ideas than racism. And it's still here. Yeah. In fact, it surges and wanes like the tides. You can't kill ideas. That's the real thing we have to understand. You can't kill ideas. Yeah. If you could kill terrible ideas with better ideas, religion wouldn't exist. Right? And these are terrible fucking ideas.
These are great points. I think more than you can't kill ideas, you can't kill the human propensity for fear. We fear the other, fear. We're insecure, whatever.
It's evolutionary, I think.
Ignorance. Like you said, we can try to educate, but these are strong. These are inside the human heart and mind and soul. It's
a great paradox, too, because, we fear, but we cooperate. Because we must cooperate or we die, at least in this culture now. But
in the big picture,
I get you.
There's not a lot of cooperation going on with this Aryan nation. I want to move on from this and get to the. So around 19, or maybe when you get out of prison, at what point do you part ways with the Aryan people?
So actually, it was when I went into prison. Okay. I went into prison for.
Meth?
Possession of methamphetamines and possession of marijuana.
How long did you serve? With
intent to distribute. Okay. So I got felony charges on what should have been a misdemeanor possession. I was sentenced to, Georgia does this weird shit called split sentencing. Oh. So I received a 10-year sentence, but it's what they call a 10-do-3. So I received 10 years total, but 3 of it was in prison and 7 on probation. Oh, okay. So I did almost the entirety of 3 years in a close security, which is 1 step below maximum security prison in Georgia. Yeah. The only reason I was in there is not because of my charges, because it was had one of the better medical facilities, and because of my heart condition, I needed to be somewhere with a good medical facility.
Is that where you did a lot of reading?
Yeah, yeah.
You're kind of a captive audience, so.
Yeah, that's I went in there, and for probably the first 6 months, I was doing everything in my power to find someone else to blame for why I was there and why everything had fallen apart and why everything was fucked up for me. And I met an old dude before I actually went into my final camp, and he said, man, if you want more of what you've been getting, keep doing what you've been doing.
Yeah.
You want something different, you need to try something different. And
Yeah.
I said, well, shit.
Yeah.
Maybe this is me. Maybe I've been fucking up. So I said, you know what? I could have had an easy time in prison, as just going in there and going like, I'm part of the Aryan Nation, like, and like I would have been taken in by the Aryan Brotherhood in there, which is actually not a branch of the Aryan Nation. It's just basically a prison gang, consisting mostly of, entirely of white people.
Right.
But I didn't do that. I said, you know what? I need to figure out me.
Yeah. You marched to your own drum.
So I started taking some classes in there. I took a drafting and design course while I was in prison. I took an information technologies course while I was in prison. I read probably every single book that we had in the library, outside of like romance and westerns.
Okay. All right. I feel like, what about how did you meet your wife and at what age?
I met my wife probably about a year after I got out of prison.
Okay.
So I was, I think I was 21, 22.
Where'd you meet her?
In a little town called McMinnville.
Okay. Yeah.
Here in town? We're in Georgia.
Tennessee.
No, in Tennessee.
In Tennessee,
It's right
McMinnville.
down the street. You go through Woodbury, and then you're right there.
I have
Right.
friends there. Yes. Okay.
At a bar?
No, actually,
At church.
even after all my time in prison, meth still had a calling for me.
Well, yeah, McMethville.
So,
that's what a lot of people call it.
Yeah, we actually knew some acquaintances, some similar acquaintances. We met due to those similar acquaintances. So just not to put anybody on the spot there. So just we met because we were in the same atmosphere.
Yeah. Circles of people.
And it was at that point that I again took another look at myself, and I said, you know what, I'm fixing to fuck up big again. I got to do something. So I was living with a friend at the time, and I said, you know what, I'm out. And I packed a bag and said, I'm gonna go hitchhike across the country and just walk away from shit and get my shit straight.
So you were attracted almost back to meth, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Well, what is it? What is it about it? It just makes you feel good, or does it makes you feel?
Well, for me, it was because I have I still have an intense fear of going to sleep and not waking up. So meth kept me awake. I didn't have to sleep, so that wasn't an issue. So I would stay up for days and days, weeks at a time.
Jesus.
And just, I avoided the problem. I lived off of 2 and 3 hours of sleep most times, and just like, okay, I'm going, which makes you insane.
Sure.
It makes you crazy as hell. So it's
So
not
still the reason.
recommended.
So poignant, though.
So did you hike across the country?
Actually, my now wife, she had a vehicle at the time, and she was like, you know what, I'm sick of this place too. Like, you want to? We'll just ride. We'll just.
She's
go.
got a fast car.
Yeah. So we just packed up together. Threw some CDs in the car.
Road
and
trip.
some clothes, and we were just like, yeah, we'll go on a road trip. No destination, no real plan. It was just like, hey, we'll do this.
Bonnie and Clyde. Where'd you go?
We went down to Houston for a while and stayed in Houston, Texas, because I'd stayed there before, because I took another little walkabout like this when I was younger. But I actually did hitchhike through most of the country during that time.
Wow.
But yeah, we went down to Houston because I kind of knew some people around there and stuff. So it's like, we can hang out down here. It's a fun atmosphere and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we ended up meeting up with another dude, and he was like, I'm going out to San Diego. And I was like, I enjoy San Diego, so let's go to San Diego. So we headed out there. We stayed in San Diego, basically living on the beach for about 2-3 months.
These are your early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of energy to do that. That's great. Wow.
So I guess, to bring it home, we're you had kind of estranged from your adoptive family, estranged from your biological mother, and of course biological dad. They all know that you're atheist by this point.
I didn't know I was an atheist. By
Oh,
this point.
okay.
I didn't. I started out, well, I'm Christian, but I'm not really fundamentalist Christian or anything
Sure,
like that.
yeah.
Like I just
Stair
kind of
step
believe.
way out of it.
And then it was like, I'll try Catholicism. Let me get to the heart of this thing. And it was like, well, I had too much ritual shit. I don't like standing and sitting all the time, so fuck that. And then I went from that to like, hey, let's explore Buddhism. Like that seems really cool. Like I like that
Probably
idea.
some form of deism.
And then I went to the agnostic kind of deist. I was like, my basic idea was, have you ever seen the movie What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams?
Oh, yeah, great
like,
show.
That was my idea. Like that's what heaven in the afterlife was going to be. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
So I was on that train for a while, and then it was actually my wife. She looked at me one day. She said, "I don't think you believe any of this shit. You're probably an atheist." I was like, "Huh."
Was she at the time?
I think she knew more about herself and understood a little more about herself and was leaning there.
Yeah.
But she was riding the train with me wherever I was going, pretty much, just because we were into each other. So
Yeah.
she was like, "I'll take the trip with you. We'll see where this goes." you
Yeah,
know?
right.
So she went to the Catholic churches with me. She, studied Buddhism with me a little bit and stuff. So it was one of those, like, we ended up at a place together, and she realized where we were at before I did.
Yeah.
And kind of said, "Hey, look here, stupid. I think this is where we're at." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit." Yeah.
I noticed in your book, your books, you use the word apatheist sometimes, as far as it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that, I am an atheist because of my own personal beliefs, because I don't believe that there is a God. I'm an atheist in the sense that I don't think that even if there is a God, it makes a fuck. Like, I don't think it matters at all.
Right.
Because if there is, and it's actually a truly kind and loving God, I have nothing to worry about. Like, I've done some fucked up shit. I think I've worked really hard to make up for a lot of that, and I'm still, trying to be a better person and make up for it. So I feel like if there is a God and he's actually kind and loving, I've got nothing to worry about.
Right.
So and I think that applies for everyone. Like, it doesn't matter if there's a God or not, because if there is, this is some extra dimensional, omnipotent being. He doesn't need your love, respect, and worship.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably got better shit to do with his time.
Well, you might remember this verse in Acts, but this is where I went even late, into my Christian years, was that God is not served by human hands as if he needed anything.
Yeah.
That's right out of the Bible. And so, yeah.
Well, it's very contradictory, isn't it?
It can be, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So you're a very prolific writer. And
Boy, I'll say.
You've got a lot of books. You've got a lot of self-publishing going on. And there's this organization called the Atheist Republic. So what's your involvement? Were you one of the founders of that, or what is that?
No, I got involved with Atheist Republic, I think 2 or 3 years after its founding. Mm-hmm. I actually stumbled on there because of I saw a promoted post from their Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Oh, Atheist Republic. Oh, that's cool. I bet there's a lot of weird conversations and stuff going on there." So I went there, and I ended up going into the basically the side chats where members can post their own stuff to the page and talk about stuff. And so I argued with Muslims and Christians that wanted to come in there and tell everybody they're pieces of shit. And then I actually found out that Atheist Republic had a website, so I was like, well, let's go to their website and see some of their stuff, because I started seeing where their blogs were popping up and their news articles, so I ended up going to the website, and just happened to see, like, there was a join us thing, and I was like, well, let's see. And there was an offering to be a blogger, so I was like, well, okay, I'll try this.
Give it a try.
I've never written in my life, really, to any real extent, so let me do something weird and crazy. And it turns out I actually seem to have kind of a knack for it.
Well, even now, as you're talking with us, I mean, it's clear that you're articulate. You put a phrase together. You've got a vocabulary to work with. It makes sense that it would manifest in this. And just to list some of the books, like Holy Shit, The Insanity of Blind Faith, The Bible in a Nutshell, Atheisting 101, 10 Steps to Proper Atheisting, as a verb.
Yeah.
Where's Your God Now? A collection of essays dealing with various aspects of the God apparatus. And
The Passion of the Atheist.
The Passion of the as opposed to the Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
The Engineer's Argument, a philosophical argument against intelligent design. And then the Bible in a nutshell, the director's cut, which was kind of an on-demand thing. People were like, hey, you left a lot of stuff out, and so this is kind of the sequel.
Yeah. And I was talking to Casper again on the porch, and he's got like 8 books in the works. 8 right now. I mean, how would you do this? This is amazing. Like, I get up and write a book, I suppose.
No, I tell you, the real godsend, and anyone
Small
that wants
G.
to be a writer,
Yeah.
your phone. Your phone has a text-to-speech application, and you can get the Google Drive and use Google Documents, and you can just dictate to your phone and then go back and edit it.
Yeah.
That's how I write.
Wow.
That's why my books come out like it's a conversation.
Yeah.
Because I'm speaking to my phone and trying to have a conversation. I want it to be personable,
Yeah.
and something that people can kind of relate to. And not everyone's going to relate to. Most of my books are either a love or hate situation for people that read them.
Yeah, they're polarizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and the biggest complaint I get with every single one is, why do you have to cuss all the time?
Why are you so angry? Why do you have to cuss? Yeah.
Oh, no, I wish it was why I'm so angry, because I seem like really friendly, except I'm vulgar. So people are like, why are you always cussing? Like, you don't have to use all this vulgarity. I'm like, no, I don't have to. But let me tell you a little secret. The word profanity is a religious word.
Yes, it
The
is.
idea of profanity and vulgarity is a religious idea. And I will be profane. I will, because I have every right to. And no one has the right to dictate my speech or how I talk. You don't have to like it, but you don't get to tell me, oh, well, you could have done so much better if you didn't cuss. Yeah, well, you didn't have to fucking read it.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
You know,
absolutely.
it's almost like the existence of God, where somebody would say, you don't have to use profanity. And they might as well say, you don't have to use references to plants. And you would say, yeah, I don't have to, but I don't have to not either. I mean, like, this is, why are we putting constraints
on speech.
on speech? And I mean, there wasn't anything more maddening to me, you know, when I would be in conversation with somebody and just maybe in a moment of passion use damn as a metaphor or as a adjective or something. Fuck even. And the content over which we were then arguing now gets completely derailed.
Right.
And I couldn't. My mind wanted to explode.
Yeah.
Can we get back to the subject?
Yeah.
It just, for some people, it's a deal breaker. Just the word "fuck."
Yeah.
And I know that's a cultural thing. I know that that's like you
I think
said.
I think it's a religious cultural thing.
Absolutely.
Too. It's a way not to talk. You know what I mean? It's a way to
Exactly.
stop conversation.
And it's not just about speaking. It's about thinking. It's about forcing you to change the way that you think and censor your own thoughts so that you're thinking, oh, I can't use that word. Well, gosh darn it. I'll use gosh darn it instead. No, you sound like an asshole. Don't use gosh darn it. Say, God
just-
damn it. Be honest.
They're just senseless constraints and what we call gymnastics. I mean, sentences and thoughts are hard enough to symbolize with words without having to dance around the minefield of certain forbidden words. It makes no sense to me.
You know, fuck is the most versatile word in the entire English language. You can use it for anything, a noun, a verb,
Yeah.
adjective, anything.
Well, you know what gave me, in a way, I'd already felt this way, but I felt confirmed in my feelings because I got not kicked out, but I got lambasted in Christianity for being somebody who didn't give a shit about cuss words.
Right.
And
the cussing preacher.
I was the cussing preacher, and I literally wrote an essay saying that God told Adam to name the animals. Because God doesn't have ears, for one thing, doesn't have vocal cords. All of this is symbolism that is only unique to human interaction. So he's like, I don't care what you name the animals because I don't even use names. I don't understand words. This is how big I put my God was. And I said, you guys think that God's offended by vowels and consonants? You have not thought that through at all. And I'm offended almost of the stupidity.
Yeah.
And I'm offended at how little your fucking God is. So, I mean, even as a Christian, I was like, I will not succumb to this.
Yeah.
Like, you're wanting me to censor myself for these reasons? No.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so what I mean by confirmation is when I think Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, Mark Maron, these are highly thoughtful, moral, compassionate, kind, loving people who drop the F-bomb all the time and have no conscience about it. Mm-hmm. I guess it was just equated with bad people in Christianity.
Yeah. Low class.
Low class.
Low class. That's the way, it started. That's the way those immigrants speak. You don't speak that way. I'm really serious.
No, yeah.
Well, and I love that so many of the people that get upset about this are the same people that want to call people snowflakes and argue about how offended everybody gets. Like, motherfucker, you're offended by words. Words offend you. You, and then you're upset that somebody's offended that they can't use the restroom that corresponds with their gender.
Yeah.
Like, that's something to actually be a little bit offended about. That's pretty fucked up. But you're pissed off about words. I got you. But I'm the snowflake. I hear you. That makes sense.
So, I mean, we're talking about how prolific you are, and what do you do for a living?
I actually I have a full-time job. I work up at the Amazon Fulfillment Center, so I make sure that you get the stuff that you order from Amazon and keep ordering it because I get stocks in the company, and you are raising my stock prices.
That's right. That's right. So you're always working with books, even if you're.
So is it the kind of thing where you're at work and you get a thought you can talking to your phone? Or?
I can't do it like in the middle of work, but like on my breaks and stuff.
Sure.
Like, I'll go out there and I'll dictate a quick little thing to it and stuff. But even at home, I'll sit around and I'll play video games, but I'll put in my headset and it has a microphone on it. So while I've actually got stuff plugged into my phone. So while I'm sitting there shooting people in my little video game, I'm also dictating, my next book and all the thoughts from it and stuff.
Wow,
that's amazing.
That's savant.
But don't you also work with Atheist Republic though? Don't you do something with?
He blogs there, and this is where you get the books.
No, there's something.
I'm actually the chief publishing officer for our publishing division.
All right.
So I help other authors get their books published.
Yeah.
So if they go to our website and they see that we have a form saying, "Hey, you want to publish a book?" Like they'll fill out the form and it comes to me, and I do.
Bob's pointing at me to get published.
Yeah, get your book.
You should.
Absolutely.
You should. I mean, if you're thinking about self-publishing, it might be a slightly better road to go through us because it's basically the same deal as self-publishing, but then we turn around and we use our platform of over 1.3 million followers on Facebook and our own website to promote your stuff.
What are some of the other authors that you guys have?
J.D. Brucker has published with us. Michael Sherlock has published with us.
Yeah,
We've published.
I know that name. Yeah.
We've published 2 books for David G. McAfee now.
Okay.
So him and Chuck Harris have been doing a book series for children, dealing with the latest one. The one that they published through us was the Book of Gods. So a really neat book, just basically explaining to elementary age children all the different gods and where they came from and what it's all about and why they don't have to believe all that crap. But in a very user friendly way for kids. So it's a very interesting book.
Do people still buy books? I mean, are they buying books? Are they buying
I know you've got ebooks here.
Kindles? Is that what they're buying? Or
the digital sell far more than the paperbacks for me personally.
Yeah. Now
McAfee, his books, a lot of them sell better as paperbacks, and of course you make a lot more money off the paperbacks too. But we have a generation of people that are moving into the digital age, and people are going to be, if you only offer a paperback, you're going to have a markedly lower market than if you offer in multiple formats. So
that makes sense. That's a great idea.
Does Dan Arrow publish through you guys?
No. But I actually worked with Dan. I helped edit his last book on secular activism, which is an amazing book, and I would recommend it to anyone who's thinking about getting into activism, because he talks about all the different levels of activism, and of course, like what I do, which would be considered slacktivism. Like I'm an online activist. I don't go to protests and stuff like that. I don't go to marches. I attend very few conventions. my activism is more aimed at reaching people online and having arguments and pissing people off online. So.
It's working. It's working great. Dan Errol's a great guy. We had him on the show once.
Years ago.
Yeah, good guy.
Oh yeah, he's right there with me, embroiled over this battle over free speech. He got Matt Dillahunty all riled up, so those guys are going at it on Twitter.
Yeah,
our community is so fractured right now. It's actually upsetting. It's bothersome.
I wonder why.
Because generally we tend to be people that actually think,
and argue.
And then there's become a shift for some people to take a more dogmatic viewpoint, even in our own community. Like I've seen so many of these free speech absolutists. I call them free speech warriors just to piss them off because they hate social justice warriors so much. So I throw it around at them. But no, this free speech absolutists and stuff like that, they're taking a very dogmatic stance, and they're not wanting to have open dialogue and discussion. And then at the same time, Dan's kind of like, yeah, well, if you're going to punch somebody, punch a fucking Nazi. And I'm just like, oh, well, yeah, I love you, Dan, but let's not punch people yet. I mean, we might have to punch people eventually, but let's not do that yet. So I'm sitting here in the middle going, can we have a discussion? And people are like, fuck you, we figured it out. And then other people are like, fuck you, punch people. And I'm like, whoa, it's not.
Yeah, we know just based on the podcast that there are podcasts that are just angry, very angry, and always upsetting people, and people love to get upset, apparently. And then there's kind of podcasts like ours where we just sort of talk and think about things. And the
YouTube community has destroyed atheism. Honestly, it has. It's a cesspool, man. People like TJ, the amazing fucking racist, and god damn it, man! It just it incenses me because these are the people that get hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube, and they have straight up white supremacists down in their comment section just going crazy with racial slurs, and they're like, they don't stop them, they don't argue with them, like, and then you got people like Dave Rubin that are like pandering to the fucking alt-right and right-wing extremists, and there's never like actually challenged any of them on anything. And I'm like, dude, what's the purpose of your show if you're not, you tell me you're against what they're for, but yet you don't challenge anybody, you don't call them on anything.
Yeah.
In fact, you have them on and give them a platform.
Yeah, all you're doing is enabling them. And like me and Ruben got into it on Twitter because I told him that. I'm like, you're enabling white supremacists and the alt-right. And he was like, oh, how am I enabling? You're an idiot. You don't see it. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
I hate to go there. I don't want to ad hom you, but Jesus, man, come on. Use your brain.
Yeah, when you know the person's smart enough to figure it out. And why do they do it then? It must be some kind of, just makes them feel good or something.
Here's the thing about, I mean, Bob, you're obviously a communications and mass comm guy. You understand the dynamics and how to make money. And the Rush Limbaughs and the Alex Joneses of the world, they know they may or may not believe a fraction of what they're saying. Yeah. But like you said, people like to get riled up. Fox News exists because people, honestly, I've known people that are either so boring or their life is so banal that if they can get worked up about something, for that moment, they feel alive, for one thing. It's almost like a teenager cutting themselves. They feel alive. And secondly, for that moment, they can convince themselves that they're on top of the topics, the issues. They're engaged in politics all of a sudden. They feel smart. Mm-hmm. And so as much as it is bullshit or as much as it is just pandering, it's a stimulating, it's an opiate. And that's true. Fox News is
they call it
peddling it.
The dysfunction of communication.
Yeah,
the being attached when you're really not. And you're right. They've made a mint out of that type of.
And I'm fine with Fox News and places like that, and the Blaze and all those people. Like, do what you do. I will combat you, and I will come back with retorts to you. But when it comes from our community, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I did not get into this for this. Like, I did not become a very vocal, strident atheist who's out here doing what I do, to be part of a community that's just ingrained, that's getting to a dogmatic viewpoint where they don't want to have discussions. We are supposed to be the ones who have discussions, and we don't take absolutist viewpoints on anything really, because that's terrible. It's a terrible idea. It shuts down discussion. When you say, I've got it figured out, you're probably fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Like, no.
You can always go deeper. Always drill deeper.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
be careful when you think you've arrived.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Well, that's
So-
good. Keep up that, man. Keep that up. You gotta do it for us, man.
Yeah.
You gotta keep going.
So normally we do go to lighthearted questions at the end, but I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna go heavy in almost existential.
Okay.
And I relate to you in some senses, not because I had the opposite childhood that you had. I had two loving parents, almost a silver spoon in my mouth, would bend over backwards to do or give me anything I wanted within their means. Loved to the hilt. I was loved to the hilt, and still am. But getting out of bed every day, somewhere in there, I do have a melancholy worldview, and I wrestle with depression and anxiety. And so I guess where I'm going is like, are you happy? What is the meaning of happiness for you? What does that look like? And then, if so, how do you maintain that? What do you do?
Am I happy?
That's a good one.
Happiness is overrated.
Well, no, I think happiness is something that we work to attain constantly, and that if you feel like you've got it, you're probably wrong, because it's going to crash down on you or something's going to fall apart. I am content.
There you go.
I'm content with what I have. I have enough, and I'm okay with having enough. Would I love to have more? Sure. Would having more make me happier? Probably not.
Right.
It'd probably just bring more complications and problems into the mix. But I'd still like to have. Would I like to have a huge house and all this land?
But
and
you're not
those
hinging
cars?
your happiness on waiting for that to happen.
No. I look at it as I would rather be right than happy. I would rather, it's like being an atheist. Like I tell people all the time, if there's anybody on this planet who should want there to be a God and a heaven, it's me.
Yeah.
Because I understand fully and completely I could die any minute.
Yeah.
And I should want there to be more, because I'm in my 30s. I'm not even supposed to be alive right now. So I should want there to be more. Of course I haven't done enough.
Yeah, and the idea of a heavenly Father probably would mean the world to you, since you really never had,
Oh yeah, it would
earthly
be
parents.
it would be a wonderful thing if it was idyllic. I understand the biblical idea of heaven, and it's horrible. It's a terrible, terrible perspective. So, but honestly, if anybody should want there to be more, it should be me. But I understand that there's not. I live in reality, and reality gets kind of shitty sometimes. So I think it's more important to be right than to necessarily be happy, because you can be ignorant and completely wrong and still be happy.
You're blissfully ignorant.
Yeah, and it's not a good thing, and it's especially not a good thing for anybody else. I also think it's more important to do something that matters in the long run than to worry about the trivial bullshit that you have in your life right now.
Yeah.
I want to be a role model to my children, and to raise them in a way where I'm producing two more mentally healthy human beings that go out into the world and try and continue to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
That's important to me. And so I'm content with what I have, and to what degree I can be happy given my, I have clinical depression and anxiety and stuff too.
Yeah.
So, given to the extent that I can be happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But it's not like, blissful or anything like that. And I don't think people should really be in a blissful state, Well, conflict, pushes evolution. It pushes us to evolve emotionally, and so there should be some level of conflict. If you're just blissfully happy, you're probably not growing. So.
Yeah. Well, yes. Are you medicated at all for your depression?
No.
Yeah.
I have to have a real job, so I can't smoke weed. Like that'd be the only medication that
you would be willing to take.
Well, you know, I've tried other medications, and it has a blurring effect on me.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel in the moment.
Yeah.
And I'll take being a little angry and lethargic, or you know, just distant, having the anxiety to, you know, being a zombie.
Yeah. Okay, so we have basically established that bliss and naivete are not going to be your route. However, a pitfall here is that there has to be maybe some places in your life where you do lighten up. And is this the video game world, or do you watch comedy? I mean, how do you laugh?
Oh yeah. I'm a huge fan of comedy.
Yeah.
My Pandora on my phone has one station, and it's on Today's Comedy. That's what I plug into my car. I have chuckles. Most of the comics I listen to are, you know, observationalists that are talking about real world bullshit and how crazy it is, and I think that's great. I try to laugh and look at that, and I work a little bit in the comedic world, you know, with some folks too. So I've thought about doing stand up because you look at a lot of the stand-ups out there, and most of them they tend to be kind of unhappy people. But it's like, hey, I can make fun of this, and everybody will laugh at it, and then we'll all feel a little better.
You probably relate to Bill Burr.
Oh, yeah. Love Burr. Tom Segura.
We're going to see Jim Jeffries in August here in Nashville.
Yeah, I love Jim. Jim's hilarious. Don't always agree with Burr or Jim.
Sure.
But I love their material, and I love the fact that they know I'm not supposed to always agree with them.
Yeah.
Like Bill's the type of person to tell you real quick, don't fucking take me seriously. I'm an idiot. Like, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So yeah, I enjoy comedy. As far as relaxing, like most of the video games I play are not for relaxing. It's about releasing tension and stress.
Okay, yeah.
Like I play Destiny online.
Yeah.
So that's basically let me go in here and see how many people I can shoot in the fucking face. But it's a good way to keep from doing it in the real world.
I totally agree. I really agree.
Yeah.
Honestly, there was this wave, where people were like, well, this is making people want to do this. No, I think it's actually relieving them from wanting to do it. Yeah, that's another social topic.
My other release is I love heavy metal music.
Okay.
Very heavy metal, like not like hair metal and stuff. That's not fucking metal. But yeah, I listen to that music, and most of it is very emotionally driven. If you can learn to understand what they're saying while they're screaming at you.
Yeah.
So once you learn to hear the music and hear the lyrics for what they are, like I listen to a lot of that, and it's all very emotionally driven, and it pushes me.
Yeah.
So it's not really so much of a how to lighten up, but sort of like what's invigorating.
Yeah.
It reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and why I got to keep going even when I feel like I don't even want to get out of bed today.
Yeah.
I push for things like that more than I do like looking for some sort of lighthearted happiness. But that's just the type of person I am. I fully understand people that need to get away from shit. That's why I did drugs for so long.
Sure.
I needed to have some sort of escape because everything was shit around me.
Yeah.
And I've come to a point in my life where I don't want an escape.
Yeah.
I'm jumping out of this plane and I don't have a parachute, and I'm gonna hope that I make it.
Yeah.
So
Well, how does that work with your? How are you doing on your fear of dying in your sleep?
I'm still a very restless sleeper, and I take a lot of Tylenol PM.
Okay. To help you sleep.
Yeah. But not like abusively, but yeah, when I'm having a bad time and like I'm feeling like I'm not going to get to sleep, I'll pop a little Benadryl or something and
that helps.
get out.
What about a beer? You like to? Can you drink a beer?
I can drink. I actually have gout, so I stay away from the beer too much because I love it. I'm a big fan of beer, but I drink a lot of White Russians. Because I feel like as a writer, I'm supposed to drink something in a glass with a piece of ice, and
You're like the dude, man.
Oh yeah. The dude is like that's why I tried a White Russian for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, alcoholic milk, yes,
It's great. Yeah, well, that's good.
The dude inspires.
That's right.
Well, thanks, Casper, for sharing your story.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is
what
it's
a guy.
been a great experience, guys.
Casper Rigsby,
What a guy.
right here in Murfreesboro. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, like Gail Jordan is here, and he's here, and
You're here.
I'm here. You're here. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot going on the in the atheist movement. Because of his association with the Atheist Republic and her association with Recovering from Religion and this podcast and
Well, I was very impressed with Casper. A bunch of books, very smart guy, very funny, charismatic, as he said. And, I personally think he should go on and get his PhD if that's what he wants to do.
yeah,
He
and
can
he
do
is.
it.
He
can
is.
do
I
it.
think he wants to. We talked about it on the porch, but our culture doesn't really honor people that have done their own self-teaching.
That's very true.
When people are readers, they're self-driven to educate themselves, and they're good, they're talented, they're skilled, they're intelligent. They've got tools in their wheelhouse where they can actually do things. But because society recognizes and the degrees and everything.
Yeah, this notion of systematic education, the idea of imprimatur, having a degree, having a piece of paper that says these hierarchical people say you are now smart or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's something to it, but it's also very modernistic and not...
people end up having those degrees that aren't near as good as the people that don't.
Oh, no, and some of the people that graduate from college and PhD programs, I might add, are pretty dumb, actually. The dumbest people I've met, and some of the smartest people I've met, too.
Yeah, you get both.
Yeah, because we're people. So, and you're right, there was the internal drive, and I feel like Casper has that. And
well, he wouldn't be where he is without it, because when you're born with these physical, his heart problems,
right. Then all his emotional problems on top of that.
Well, your own mother abandoned you at age 5, so it was late enough in life to where he was aware of what was happening, and then your question of like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah,
and I think humans struggle with self-loathing automatically, let alone when you have some evidence.
Yeah,
It's like, well, people are rejecting me. There must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And these are the things that not only all humans have to overcome, but ex-Christians have to overcome.
Sure.
Because we're told that there's something wrong with us.
Yeah, and the idea too that he has that ticking in his ear. He can hear the mechanical machine in his heart, and how that drove him to use meth because it was analgesic or whatever. It made him
fear of falling asleep, and dying in your sleep, and so I'm not going to sleep, and this is what keeps me awake.
And then you go to jail.
Yeah. He's had a lot to overcome.
He really has, and it's amazing that he's come so far, and I think he's got enough, a little juice in him to go a little further.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, he'd be a great teacher, I think.
Yeah. He's a good communicator.
Yeah, great communicator. Yeah.
I thought of when he was talking about that ticking in his ear, that he hears it constantly. I've been so binging on Broken Mirror or Black Mirror.
Black Mirror, yeah, great show.
Kind of a Twilight Zone episodes,
Yeah.
and they're very, very provocative. In fact, maybe even to the point where I have to tone down or rein in how often I watch them, because there's some mind fuckery there.
Big time.
But it seemed like an episode of Black Mirror that here's a guy who hears an internal clock. And I think of Ernest Becker's Denial of Death, that humans are uniquely aware of that we exist and that we're going to die. And thirdly, that we could die at any time for reasons beyond our control. These are horrifying realities that all humans are coping with in their own way in some kind of immortality project. We're afforded a lot more luxury than Casper is.
That's true. We can shut it off.
We can shut it off. We're better at it's easier for most people to compartmentalize their own impending death than a ticking in your ear.
Yeah.
Or just the fact that scientifically your heart could give out at any time, and within minutes you're going to be dead. And but that's true of all of us.
I know. It still is very poignant, though, because it's that extra layer that underlines the mortality.
Yeah.
And I think that is compelling. And you're right, I think it's a movie. I think there's a movie going on there somewhere. But I always think that. So. Anyway, it was a great show. And I know early on, because we read some of the books, and it's like, well, yeah, this is a lot of stuff that we know already, you know. Of course, we kind of are into it more than most people. So I can see these books really helping a lot of people that are just coming out of Christianity.
Or maybe still in it and haven't actually thought it through to the extent that Casper has. And here's a guy who, in a pedagogical way, is saying, hey, you know, have you thought about this?
Right. And in a very street smart, street words kind of way, too. I mean, he's not afraid to throw in the occasional fuck, as it were.
No, right. And he's been around the block. I mean, he's been to prison. He's a survivor, you know. He's an overcomer. And just physically, if our guests, you know, can't see him, he's both his arms are sleeved.
Yes, with
totally
tattoos
tatted.
And stuff. And in fact, on the porch just afterwards, after the thing, he showed us one tattoo, and there were 2 SS's on there.
Yeah,
you know,
SS lightning bolts.
Yeah, SS lightning bolts. And he said those are earned.
Yeah.
In other words, he had to hurt somebody to get those. He had to punch somebody.
And he's not proud of that.
No. But you could see in his face how it pained him.
And it's perpetually on his arm as a reminder. I mean, we all have done things that we regret, but we can kind of maybe shove those under the rug. But it's right there on his arm, you know. Yeah,
just the sense that he wants to make. He talked about this a great deal too, about wanting to make good humans. His kids are so important to him, to make good people, good human beings. That's his job.
Yeah.
And I really like the guy very much.
Well, and I think even to his family, we all have this, all us ex-Christians, we have family members that wish we'd come back. And what they don't realize that they're saying, that he said, I think more on the porch than on the show, was, I'm being honest. And you're asking me to go back to dishonesty. You'd prefer I'd be a dishonest person, and you'd like me better.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really turns it back on them. It's like, you realize what you're asking is for me to compromise my integrity, my morals, my ethics.
Yeah. And they don't realize that's what they're asking.
Well, because they'd have to realize that they are at that moment already compromised their integrity.
Yeah, right.
And now you're asking me to. So to become one of you and to become back and embraced into the circle, I've got to do that. No, thank you.
Yeah. See, that's one thing we talked about. He said he's read the Bible 15 times, before he was 15 or something. And most people haven't read the Bible once, to tell you the truth. And they call themselves Christians. They refuse to read it. I don't know why. Or they think it's boring. I don't know why people don't do it. If you just read, it's right there. If you read it, you might become an atheist, to tell you the truth.
I don't know.
Because some of the stuff in it is puzzling.
It would be interesting to find out, like, the percentage of, I don't know. But there are Christians who have read it cover to cover, and maybe even repeatedly have read it and have remained Christians. But I would say that the number's pretty high of those that really did actually take their faith serious. Yeah. I mean, I've said that before, that the reason I'm not a Christian today is I took it serious.
yeah, exactly.
And those of us unwilling to check our brains at the door and canonize something so that it's above reproach, it's sacred, it can't be questioned.
Right.
Well, that's just grounds for ignorance and for cultish devotion to an authority that is not
there. Actually,
well, it's not there, but you're not allowed to question it. Then, I mean,
it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't seem American. You know what I mean? But then again, it seems very American.
Isn't that odd?
On one hand, it's a paradox. It really is.
It's odd that something founded on freedom and thinking for oneself.
During the Enlightenment
is a country that has become the opposite, because I think Christianity is the supreme example of serfdom and authoritarianism.
Yeah, you stay where you belong,
and a ceding of the will to a dictator. So it's the opposite of freedom, and it's the opposite of thinking for oneself, and yet it's become American. I mean, as far as how Christian hegemony
Yeah.
dominates Christian culture or American culture.
Yeah.
Who knew?
much.
And these are the things that fucked with me when I was trying to get out.
Sure.
I was like, come on. Because I still respected Jesus. The most anti-Christ organization under the sun is the Christian church. And this kind of stuff, you continue to think I must be crazy because so many millions are just following along like zombies. Or you grow a pair and you get the courage to say, no, I'm actually going to trust myself on this one. And then you find community outside of there where it's like, oh, there's a lot of other people who got brave and got honest.
Yeah.
And now we're the pariahs. We're the persona non gratas in a culture that wants you to march to the beat of Christianity, and you march to your own drum and you're out. And
I
it's
hear
lonely.
you. I hear you. Wow.
All right, man.
Well, I tell you, again, wonderful.
Yeah, good talk.
Another unusual guest, and I love them. Let's keep them coming.
All right.
There'll be another one, I'm sure. Next time.
Next time.
See you then.
See ya.
Yeah.